Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching India's World with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. Well, envoys of more than 60 countries on Wednesday visited a facility of Bharat Biotech, which is developing Covaxin, India's first indigenous vaccine for coronavirus. The foreign envoys who travelled to Hyderabad were impressed by the progress made by the Indian drug companies. In this edition of India's World, we will analyze India's vaccine diplomacy. Joining me on the program today are Professor N.K. Ganguly, former Director General of the Indian Council of Medical Research, Sreeram Chaulia, Foreign Affairs Expert, and Gurjeet Singh, former Ambassador. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of India's World. So, Sreeram Chaulia, as far as India is concerned, would you say that this is a major opportunity to impress the world?
Yes, definitely, Frank. We have the capacity, the manufacturing capacity, as well as the reputation. You see, WHO has pre-approved 47 vaccines made by Indian companies, and only 5 vaccines made by Chinese companies, for example. This is a race. It is a kind of a vaccine internationalism. So one is a vaccine nationalism where countries are not willing to share their technology for the betterment of the world. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi believes in vaccine internationalism. So, of course, we are trying to secure at least enough supplies for 60% of our domestic population so that we get that herd immunity or whatever, and we are safe. But on the other hand, we have the capacity and the will to manufacture a lot more than what we need domestically. So that's where, it's a soft power enhancement tool, in that sense, because like colleagues mentioned, there is, a lot of demand for Indian medicines because of 2 reasons: safety and efficacy. And by developing country standards, we have done very well. In fact, it's not wrong to call Hyderabad the vaccine capital of the world, or India as the pharmacy of the world. So we are a medical superpower in that sense. We have a lot of incoming flows of people for medical tourism, for affordable healthcare here, but also we export not only vaccines, even cures. Like, for example, the antiretrovirals, which brought down HIV/AIDS across Africa, 80% or more of them have gone from India. So Indian generic drugs actually were game changers for Africa. Likewise, for our neighboring countries, I think the government has already indicated to Nepal, to Bangladesh, to Myanmar, to Bhutan, and beyond, ASEAN countries and Africa, tropical countries where we have an advantage. And I think we will definitely outshine the Chinese and the Russians, because the Chinese and the Russians are in a hurry and they are trying to, jump the gun and not follow the full processes simply to score political points. You have, Frank, a situation where the Chinese inoculated their own citizens, more than 1 million of them, without conducting full even phase 3 trials. So India is a more responsible country. What we are saying, Prime Minister has said, is we are doing this for all humanity. And definitely the virus did not originate with us. We are creating the solution to the problem. The Chinese were the ones who started the problem in the first place. So I think we are in a very good position to actually be the long distance runner in this vaccine race, and to emerge actually as a winner. Because see, now of course the rollout is just happening. As you said, approvals still need to come in, but think about it, in 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, and until 2021, 2022, India would have had the maximum impact on the global south, where people really appreciate our contribution. So I think our health diplomacy, the Chinese are talking of health Silk Road and all that, but people are wary of the Chinese for other reasons, including political conditionalities and all that. We are not imposing those things. We are saying we want to do this because our value system is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We believe in the world as one family. And like Prime Minister said, we will, and the Prime Minister of Bhutan mentioned this, Frank, Lote Shering. He said, India is taking the lead in vaccine development and is promising us, early fruit of that. He says this is a source of hope for all of us in the developing world. So I think that is what we are seeing now. India is emerging stronger from this whole COVID crisis. We have managed to contain the epidemic to some extent within our country and not allow it to become explosive. On the other
Right.
hand, the demand for our vaccines is going to continue growing and we will be stronger.
So, Sreeram Chaulia, since let's talk about this aspect as well. There is no doubt that there is tremendous goodwill as far as India is concerned. There is no doubt that, India is a medical superpower and there's so much that we can do for the entire world. At some level, can we also use this as leverage?
Well, Frank, that's what the Chinese are, very overtly trying to do. Thailand and the Philippines, for example, were basically threatened that if they do not side with China on the issue of the inquiry in the WHO about the origins of the virus, then they will not get the favorable terms for the Sinovac and Sinopharm vaccines from China. The Chinese also they could possibly extract conditions from Indonesia over territorial disputes. I don't think we are at all into that kind of, a cloak and dagger style of diplomacy. I think ours is we are a democracy. We are much more transparent. We are not hegemonic. We believe,
if I may just if I may just word it a little better, rather than leverage, if we can change the goodwill to gains.
Yeah, there are, the Chinese pressure in our region is tremendous, and we are facing geostrategic competition, no doubt. And the vaccine race will help us to withstand this competition to an extent. Because if India is fulfilling the major public health requirements of strategically located countries, then there is no reason for them to fall into the Chinese debt trap. The Chinese now are saying the BRI is going to be the medium through which they will distribute their vaccines. So we have a situation where they will want to extend the debt traps in the name of the BRI and long-term loans and grants and such things. So I think our approach will be always to win the hearts and minds of people, especially in the developing world, where India is seen with very high regard as a non-aggressive and a non-imperialistic power. And two, I think our medical prowess, like colleagues mentioned, has already done wonders. The WHO at one point wanted meningitis vaccines at less than 50 cents per dose. Nobody in the world could produce except India. Our own Serum Institute in Pune did it. So I think there is this unique strength we have, like in IT services, pharma, biotech also, we are very strong in vaccines. This is something in which we are comparable to world powers or even superior. So this is where I think we need to leverage is a good point. I mean, in the sense that, where we do this and where we practically save humanity through the process, when in a very crunch moment like this, crunch time, I think people will remember this, and we will need to institutionalize this cooperation further, because, like, for example, with Africa, we have the e-network, the e-health network, and post-vaccination also, I believe the people have to be monitored, and India can provide the, through long distance mode, we can provide those services as well. Of course, we have a large domestic population. People are always anxious. When will the corona cure come? I mean, the vaccines come within India. But I think we have the means and the capacity to be able to ultimately do this on a scaled up manner for the entire global south. So that's why I'm saying, if you take a 2 to 3 year horizon, standing in the world will rise as a result of this vaccine diplomacy that we are embarking on, with a very clear vision and a pathway. I think Prime Minister and his team, Dr. Jaishankar, they are emphasizing. That's why they're bringing diplomats to see our capacity, so that the diplomats are assured that we are just not talking the talk. We're going to walk the talk, and we're going to transform the scene. They are all in very, very dire need right now. And,
right.
Like a year of last resort, India is emerging. So that's a point for them to remember and to recall when they have interactions on other aspects like trade and business and strategic cooperation.
And Sreeram Chaulia, close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
Well, Frank, Indian vaccine diplomacy, we are on two legs. One is the multilateral channel. We are supporting, we have already, Prime Minister has committed $15 million to the COVAX facility, which is administered by the WHO and the Gavi. But we also have bilateral, because there, we are going to be sharper in choosing which are the most priority countries for us in terms of economics, in terms of geography, in terms of geopolitics, in terms of maintaining India's influence, expanding India's influence. So all those factors will also come in. I expect much of Asia and Middle East and Africa. And even Brazil, in Brazil, they have had a controversy with the Chinese vaccine trials there. We expect these large developing countries, even in Latin America, to come forward and use our expertise to overcome this global crisis. So India, Prime Minister has always said, is a Vishwa Guru. We believe that we have something to give to the world.
All right. On that note, then I'll call it a wrap on this edition of India's World. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us.